We have sent robots to Mars, taken the first photo of a black hole, and decoded the human genome. These achievements once seemed impossible, yet we did them. But there is one shocking paradox. We still cannot find a plane that vanished right here on Earth. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, with 239 people on board, slipped into darkness and disappeared from radar, even though it was equipped with some of the most advanced tracking and communication systems. Now, after a decade, artificial intelligence is re-examining the clues, claiming to see signs in old satellite images that humans missed. Will AI bring us closer to the truth, or only build a digital illusion? The answers may be nearer than ever before, and what comes next could challenge everything you thought you knew. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 vanished in a way that still shocks the world. The Boeing 777-200ER, carrying 239 passengers and crew, lifted off from Kuala Lumpur on a routine flight to Beijing. Less than an hour later, its signal disappeared, leaving no distress call, no emergency code, and no explanation. What made this tragedy so disturbing was not only the human loss, but the aircraft itself. The Boeing 777 was among the safest and most advanced planes ever built. It carried multiple satellite links, GPS navigation, and radar systems that should have kept it visible at all times. Yet every safeguard went silent. In the age of satellites, smartphones, and instant communication, a plane the size of a skyscraper slipped into darkness as if it had never existed. This paradox revealed something few people expected. Even modern aviation had blind spots. Families gathered at airports, waiting for answers that never came. Governments launched frantic searches, first in the South China Sea, then further west. But as days passed without wreckage, disbelief turned into fear. If technology could not explain what happened to MH370, then what did that say about the security of global air travel? For the aviation industry, the disappearance was more than an unsolved case. It was a warning that advanced systems could still fail in ways no one predicted. And for the families of the 239 souls lost, it became a wound that time could not heal. MH370 was not only a missing plane, it became a haunting reminder that even in a world mapped by satellites, mystery can still win. But after more than a decade, one question remains. Will new technology finally reveal what happened, or will MH370 remain the ghost of modern skies? Artificial intelligence has entered the MH370 story in a way that no one could have predicted. For nearly a decade, satellite photos taken in March 2014 were stored in archives, dismissed as showing nothing more than ocean trash. To human eyes, the shapes looked random, blurred, and impossible to confirm. But AI thrives on patterns that people overlook. When researchers fed those same images into advanced algorithms, the results were shocking. The machines highlighted sharp angles, straight lines, and reflective surfaces that did not belong in natural ocean drift. These details suggested fragments of something man-made, and the probability that it was aircraft debris suddenly grew much stronger. One of the most striking findings was how independent groups reached similar conclusions. Separate AI systems, trained in different labs and using different datasets, repeatedly identified the same clusters of unusual objects. That consistency lowered the risk of coincidence and gave new weight to images that governments had once ignored. The difference between human analysis and machine analysis could not be clearer. In 2014, analysts were working under pressure, sifting through thousands of blurry images while the ocean currents moved debris further each day. They had limited time, limited resources, and often conflicting instructions from political leaders. By contrast, AI can process millions of pixels in seconds, comparing shapes to vast libraries of known objects and detecting the faintest signs of metal or structure. This ability to pull order out of noise turned forgotten photos into credible leads. Researchers also used computational photography, a technique that enhances low-resolution pictures. When combined with AI, the grainy blobs sharpened into outlines resembling panels, fuselage sections, and even possible parts of a wing. While no one can confirm these without physical recovery, the similarities were too specific to dismiss. For the families who had begged for these images to be re-examined, the AI results felt like long-delayed validation. They had always believed clues were hidden in plain sight, and now technology was proving them right. Yet the findings also reopened old wounds. If AI could reveal these details today, why was it not used in 2014? Why were search efforts allowed to drift away from the very areas that might have held the answers? This was not just a technical issue, it was a question of accountability. Governments had access to data, but bureaucratic delays and political caution meant critical evidence sat unused. Every week that passed made debris harder to locate, and by April 2014, much of it had likely dispersed beyond recognition. AI has now reframed those lost opportunities. It shows how close investigators may have been to the truth and how much time was wasted. It also forces us to ask how future investigations should be run. If machines can detect what humans cannot, should AI always be part of the first response to an aviation disaster? The potential goes far beyond recognizing shapes. AI systems are capable of modeling ocean currents, predicting drift paths, and cross-referencing data from multiple satellites at once. These are tasks that would take human analysts months or even years, yet algorithms can complete them in hours. That speed is critical when debris disperses quickly under wind and waves. Even today, AI is being trained with data from past accidents, learning the difference between natural wreckage, cargo containers, and true aircraft debris. The more it learns, the more accurate its predictions become. This is why some experts now call AI the greatest advancement in aviation safety since the black box. But with new tools also comes new uncertainty. Skeptics warn that AI can misinterpret patterns, hallucinating structure where none exists. Without physical proof from the ocean floor, even the clearest AI-generated image remains an informed guess. The debate between evidence and interpretation is what makes the current moment so tense. Supporters argue that AI has finally given direction to a search that was once paralyzed by doubt. Critics counter that without verification, AI might push resources into another dead end. The truth may lie somewhere in between. AI does not replace human investigation, but adds a critical new dimension to it. In fact, some of the most recent proposals for a renewed search combine AI with autonomous underwater vehicles, creating a partnership where machines both above and below the sea guide each other. The hope is that by narrowing the search zone through AI analysis of old satellite data, underwater drones can focus their scans on the most promising areas. This approach would save millions in costs and increase the chances of finding wreckage on the first attempt. The implications stretch beyond MH370. If AI proves effective here, it could become a standard tool for all future accidents at sea or in the air. It could help track missing ships, identify illegal dumping, or even spot early signs of disasters before they escalate. For families of MH370 victims, though, the focus remains deeply personal. The question is not about policy or technology, it is about closure. If AI has indeed found evidence of the plane, then there is a moral duty to act on it. No algorithm, no matter how advanced, can replace the simple human need to know what happened to loved ones. That is why the push for a new search is so urgent, and why Malaysia's agreement with Ocean Infinity has drawn global attention. Yet the stakes are high. If this AI-guided mission succeeds, It will not only solve one of aviation's greatest mysteries, but also prove that technology can rewrite the limits of human investigation. If it fails, doubts will grow about whether machines can truly deliver answers in the most complex of cases. Still, one truth stands out. AI has transformed the MH370 search from a fading memory into a living investigation once again. It has reminded the world that the answers may have always been present, only hidden by human limits. The next step will test whether machines can truly lead us to the final resting place of the aircraft, or whether this is another false dawn in the endless search. So the question is this: if AI has given us the clearest clues yet, will humanity finally follow them into the depths, or will the wreckage of MH370 remain just beyond our reach? Quantum computing has added a new dimension to the MH370 investigation, working side by side with artificial intelligence. While AI re-examined satellite images and detected possible debris that human eyes dismissed, quantum systems tackled the vast ocean itself. They ran billions of drift simulations, modeling how confirmed debris, such as the flaperon found on Reunion Island and other fragments from Mozambique and Tanzania, could have traveled across currents since March 2014. Unlike traditional computers, which test one scenario at a time, quantum machines explore multiple possibilities in parallel. This ability made the models far more powerful and pointed repeatedly to a region most earlier searches had missed: Broken Ridge, a jagged underwater mountain range in the southern Indian Ocean. This terrain is marked by cliffs and trenches thousands of meters deep, a place where wreckage could easily remain hidden. Earlier missions skipped parts of this area, assuming the aircraft had flown further south, but quantum analysis has now challenged that belief. By combining AI's ability to spot man-made shapes in satellite data with quantum's ability to reconstruct debris drift, investigators now have a far more precise target. Ocean Infinity, the exploration firm preparing the next mission, plans to use autonomous underwater vehicles equipped with quantum-based models to search 15,000 square kilometers of seabed. These robots can dive 6 kilometers, operate for 100 hours at a time, and map terrain in unprecedented detail. The mission may cost $70 million, but it could deliver the closure families have waited more than a decade to receive. Still, the question lingers. With AI and quantum working together, will the ocean finally give up its secret, or will MH370 remain hidden in the deep? Before technology could redraw the map of the ocean, everything started with a single night in March 2014, when one of the safest planes in the world lifted off from Kuala Lumpur and never came back. At 12:41 a.m., Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, a Boeing 777-200ER with 239 people on board, lifted into the night sky. For 40 minutes, everything seemed routine. The plane climbed smoothly, its transponder sending signals to civilian radar as controllers prepared for the usual handoff into Vietnamese airspace. At 1:21 a.m., the transponder went dark, communication stopped, and the aircraft vanished from radar. At first, it was treated as a technical fault, but as hours passed, it became clear this was something else entirely. Military radar later revealed a shocking twist. MH370 had turned sharply west, flying back across Malaysia before crossing the Strait of Malacca and heading toward the Andaman Sea. These turns suggested deliberate control, because if the crew were incapacitated, the jet would have flown straight until fuel ran out. Instead, it made calculated maneuvers that seemed designed to avoid detection. The mystery deepened when British satellite operator Inmarsat analyzed automated handshakes, digital signals sent for nearly 7 more hours after radar contact was lost. By using the Doppler effect, scientists traced 2 possible arcs, one north toward Central Asia and one south into the Indian Ocean. When debris eventually washed up on African shores, the southern route became the accepted path. Yet this raised disturbing questions. Why would a fully functional jet continue flying silently into one of the most remote places on Earth? Was it crippled by fire or depressurization that left everyone unconscious? Or was it guided intentionally into oblivion? For families waiting in Beijing, the last words from the cockpit, "Good night, Malaysian 370, became a haunting memory. Calm and ordinary, they gave no hint of the chaos to come. Within minutes of that farewell, 239 lives slipped into silence, leaving only fragments of radar, satellite arcs, and endless speculation. The night's events are now etched in aviation history, but the motives remain hidden, leading to the most extensive search ever attempted. The disappearance of MH370 triggered the most ambitious search ever attempted in aviation history. Within days of losing contact, a multinational effort was launched, bringing together ships, aircraft, satellites, and research teams from over 20 countries. At its peak, the operation stretched across 120,000 square kilometers of the southern Indian Ocean, an area roughly the size of Greece, and the cost soared into the hundreds of millions of dollars. The challenge was immense because this was no ordinary sea. The search area was one of the most hostile regions on Earth, with waves as high as buildings, strong currents, and deep trenches that sank thousands of meters below the surface. Before sonar could even be deployed, experts had to map the ocean floor itself, charting underwater ridges and mountains that had never been documented. It was a mission within a mission, revealing a hidden landscape but bringing no trace of the missing jet. The technology used was among the most advanced available. Australia led the search with a fleet of ships carrying side-scan sonar, underwater drones, and towed sonar vehicles designed to capture images of the seabed. Military aircraft from several nations scanned the skies, while satellites were programmed to detect any signs of wreckage. The scale was unprecedented, yet the sea returned nothing. Every sweep of sonar produced only images of barren ridges and volcanic terrain, while each aerial survey came back with empty skies. The silence of the ocean was unbroken. For families, each new press conference offered hope that the search might finally reveal an answer, but months turned into years without progress. The first breakthrough did not come from the search vessels at sea, but from a shoreline thousands of miles away. In July 2015, a piece of debris washed ashore on Réunion Island, east of Madagascar. It was a flaperon from a Boeing 777, and investigators confirmed it belonged to MH370. For the first time, there was physical proof that the jet had gone down in the Indian Ocean. In the years that followed, more fragments were discovered in Mozambique, South Africa, and Tanzania, including parts of the wing and pieces of the interior. But these items only proved what families already feared: the plane had ended in the ocean. They did not reveal why, nor did they pinpoint the final resting place. After covering more than 120,000 square kilometers and spending over 4 years, the official search was suspended in 2018 without finding the main wreckage or the black boxes. For investigators, it was an unprecedented failure. For the relatives of 239 souls, it was another wound that would not close. The largest search in history had produced maps of the ocean floor, but left the central mystery untouched. And so the question grew louder. If so much effort and technology could not solve the case, what other clues had been overlooked? The answer, as we will see next, may have been waiting in forgotten satellite images all along. In the weeks after MH370 disappeared, some of the most important clues came not from the sea, but from space. Multiple countries released satellite images showing objects floating in the Indian Ocean, yet these snapshots were never fully investigated. French satellites first reported clusters of debris just days after the disappearance, followed by China and Malaysia, confirming their own pictures of strange shapes drifting on the surface. The Thai satellite Taichot later detected nearly 300 objects, some as long as 15 meters, while Germany and the United States also gathered images with their radar systems. On paper, this looked like a breakthrough, but in practice it became another missed opportunity. The problem was not the absence of data, but the limits of technology and politics. Optical satellites could only see clearly when skies were free of clouds, and many images were blurred or covered by weather. Radar satellites worked through storms, but their resolution was low, reducing objects to bright dots that were hard to confirm. Debris was also drifting, carried away by strong currents, so an item spotted one day could be hundreds of kilometers away by the next. By the time ships were sent to verify locations, the ocean had already scattered the evidence. The scale of the challenge was enormous. Satellites orbit the Earth on schedules, so they do not monitor the same area continuously. At best, one could pass over once a day and others only once every few days, leaving long gaps in coverage. This meant that even if wreckage was visible, it might have vanished from sight by the time the next satellite returned. And behind the scenes, politics shaped what the world could see. Military satellites owned by global powers like the United States, China, and France are capable of incredibly sharp images, but revealing their true resolution would expose national security secrets. Analysts suggest this is one reason why governments downplayed or shelved the photos, labeling them as inconclusive or ocean garbage. For the families, this secrecy felt like betrayal. They believed governments knew more than they admitted, and that crucial data was locked away for reasons unrelated to the search. By April 2014, the chance to locate a fresh debris field had been lost, and with it, perhaps the best opportunity to solve the mystery quickly. Years later, when artificial intelligence revisited these same images, the outlines of metallic parts and straight edges reappeared with new clarity, raising the haunting question of whether answers had been visible all along. If satellites captured signs of MH370 within days, why was the world left chasing empty seas for years? The next part takes us back to the night of March 8, 2014, to retrace the jet's last known movements and ask whether this was an accident or an intentional act. From the very beginning, one of the darkest questions about MH370 has been whether its disappearance was a tragic accident or a deliberate act. Investigators examined the limited debris that washed ashore, searching for clues about how the jet hit the water. Some experts, including Vincent Line from the University of Tasmania, argued that the damage looked like a controlled ditching, similar to the Hudson River landing in 2009. The smoother edges of the flaperon and other fragments, they said, did not match a high-speed impact. If this theory is right, it means someone guided the plane down on purpose, choosing a remote place where recovery would be almost impossible. Suspicion also grew when a route on Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah's home flight simulator mirrored MH370's final path. Though investigators stressed this was not proof of guilt, it raised disturbing doubts that never fully disappeared. Other experts support a different scenario. They believe the plane ended in an uncontrolled dive, caused by hypoxia or another sudden event that left the pilots incapacitated. The jet could have flown on autopilot until fuel ran out, then plunged into the sea at high speed, breaking apart and sinking quickly. That would explain the absence of large floating wreckage despite years of searching. Neither theory can be proven without the black boxes, leaving the case suspended between two grim possibilities. And in that uncertainty, the story of MH370 moves from data and debris to the human cost, families still waiting for the truth. For the families of the 239 people on board, the disappearance of MH370 has never been just a mystery of aviation. It has been a wound that refuses to heal. Parents, children, and partners waited in airports for news that never came, clinging to rumors, chasing reports of sightings and living through press conferences filled with uncertainty. Each passing year deepened their grief, but it also sharpened their anger toward authorities they believed had failed them.
From there, you're living westward.
Some accused Malaysia and other governments of hiding information, while lawsuits were filed against Malaysia Airlines, Boeing, Rolls-Royce, and insurers. For these families, closure has never been about money. It has been about answers, about knowing where their loved ones spent their final moments and why the world's most advanced systems could not save them. Today, a decade later, that hope has been rekindled. Malaysia has signed a new deal with Ocean Infinity, the exploration firm that promises to return to the southern Indian Ocean with upgraded underwater vehicles. This contract covers 15,000 square kilometers of seabed, with a reward of $70 million if wreckage is found and confirmed. For many, this is the last chance to end the waiting and to let memory replace uncertainty. But the haunting question remains. Even if the wreck is found, will the truth about MH370 ever truly be known? The loss of MH370 was not only a human tragedy, but also a turning point that forced the aviation world to confront its blind spots. For decades, air travel was considered one of the safest forms of transport, yet the sudden disappearance of a Boeing 777 exposed how fragile those systems really were. In response, the International Civil Aviation Organization introduced new rules for global tracking. Commercial planes must now report their position at least every 15 minutes, and in emergencies, once every minute. This system, called GADSS, is designed to make sure no flight can vanish without leaving a trace again. Another lesson came from the black boxes. MH370 showed that their underwater locator beacons, which once lasted 30 days, were not enough. Now the goal is 90 days of signals, with some designs proposing black boxes that can eject and float on the surface. These changes cost money, but they represent the price of learning from failure. Every regulation that followed MH370 carries the memory of those 239 lives, reminding airlines and governments that safety must adapt faster than disaster. Still, the haunting truth remains. Even with stronger systems, can humanity ever claim full control of the skies? The disappearance of MH370 proved that even the safest and most advanced aircraft can still carry hidden risks. Now, more than a decade later, artificial intelligence is uncovering forgotten details in old satellite images, revealing clues that humans once missed. Straight lines, metallic reflections, drift models, all have been reconstructed by AI into traces that could change the entire direction of the search. If AI can truly follow these fragments across the ocean, can it also lead us to the exact place where the plane lies? Whatever the answer may be, MH370 has reminded humanity of the limits of our knowledge and of the forces that remain beyond our control. Solving this mystery is not only about finding the truth of the past, but also about protecting the future, to make sure no aircraft ever disappears in silence again.